When you're watching Willie Z like talk about with his caddy and look at the shot and he's like looking at his ball, making a decision, what are you thinking during that time? Are you like staring at him, hoping that he's like going for it, attempting it?
Part of me, maybe a little bit.
You're
But
whispering like, play it, play
You're like,
it.
dude, I think that's actually good. I think you can probably get a
Pretty
club on
good.
that.
yeah, I should have maybe gone over there and told him, it's not as bad as I thought.
I could hit that shot. I could hit that
Oh,
shot.
you got so lucky there, like as you walk by.
You're good enough for that one.
Foreplay presented by Barstool Sports. We have a little bit of an OG show, if you will. It's kind of crazy to think that for 2 years or whatever it was, this was the entire show, but it's myself and Trent Ryan. We have Frankie Borrellis and Benjamin Lurch. Severance are in the end of the show with Sepp Straka. So Sepp Straka was, of course, in the playoff on Sunday. Phenomenal back and forth between him and Willie Z. Sepp obviously ended up on the unfortunate side of that playoff, but he was kind enough yesterday. This was Tuesday that we recorded the interview. As soon as he got to the BMW in Delaware, he hopped on with us for about 20, 25 minutes. We went all through the playoff. It was actually really, really interesting how aggressive he is, hearing about a lot of the shots. So Frankie and Lurch are part of that. Lurch is traveling all day today for Axon, and Frankie Borrellis is obviously at Monterey Peninsula Country Club today with his father. I think he's going to jump in later in the show with just Trent. So you're getting all kinds of weird combinations, basically, which we like to throw at you. But right now, it's just you and me, Trent Daddy.
Yeah, I'm going to text Frankie later and see if he wants to recap how he shot at Pebble Beach, how he shot today. I'm just interested to hear how it went with Mr. Borrellis. But for right now, it's the old school show. It's me and Riggsy. And it's, it is true. We did this for a couple of years on the front end of this podcast, and then it grew and we added a couple more bodies. But I think this will be nice. This is a nice little throwback for people who've been listening for a long time.
Like 9 p.m. on Monday nights, we used to basically do the podcast because we weren't allowed to do the podcast during work hours.
Mm-hmm.
We had to blog.
Yep.
And podcast studios were impossible to find. I mean, impossible. That was the OG office where there was basically one podcast studio. There was one radio studio, one podcast studio. And so we would fight for time because it was back in that day. It was pretty much Pardon My Take, KFC Radio, us, and then Mixtape at the time too. They would record for like 5 hours. Anybody who ever listened to the boys then?
Yeah.
I mean, they would do hour and a half long ad reads. So they would record just forever.
Yeah, and we'd be like, all right, we're looking at studio time, and like you said, it'd be Pardon My Take and KFC Radio, who obviously have like the first dibs on a podcast studio. So we would record at 9 p.m., do our little golf show, do it until really late, wake up the next day, start blogging. It's funny when we talk about those days now. It does seem a little bit like in my day, we walked uphill to school both ways.
Yeah.
But if you do look back, that studio was as tiny as can be. It was the first post Milton Barstool HQ. Not a lot of room. Everybody was on top of each other. When it first opened up, we had one floor and it was content on one side, business on the other. Eventually we got the floor above it where the business people went. But if you look back on it, it really is like the good old scrappy days. And now, we're all over the place. We're traveling. We got video series. We've expanded. The office is way bigger. People are all over. Sometimes it's nice to reminisce and remember where you came from.
It does feel a lot when people ask, like we snapped our fingers, woke up, and it's big. Like
I know.
It's people are like, oh, so talk to me about this. How'd you guys get to this point? I'm like, honestly, feels like we did that first episode with Ollie Schneider-Jans and talked about his fucking shampoo. And then now it feels like this is like the next episode that we're recording, and it's 5.5 years later, and things are just different. It's everything that we do. Never thought that. Blue Apron was our first sponsor. I remember that. Like we came in. I don't know if they're even a company anymore. I have no idea. I haven't heard of them in forever, but it was like, hopefully they are. But I remember because we, for folks who don't understand at the time, I mean, we were kind of part of just the bullpen. It was like the bullpen of Barstool bloggers, and everybody's trying to find something. There was only probably 10 of us at the time, and the whole company was maybe 30 people. There was like, we didn't even fill up one floor of that New York first office. Everyone was on half of the floor,
Right.
And then eventually I remember it expanded to where the behind the scenes folks were on the other side of the room.
Mhm.
And that was crazy. That was when like the editors were over there. John Kelly was over there. Alyssa, I believe, was like, oh, it was like people moved over there and you were like, wow, they kind of got annexed over by the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that we couldn't even fill up one floor of an office. And now we've got, I mean, now people can't even get conference rooms at HQ3 in New York, which is a massive 2 floors. They just bought a whole second floor, like bought out the whole second floor. That office is enormous, and people can't even get conference rooms there because there's so many fucking people. Jake Bass just said we're 12 episodes away from our 500th episode.
I mean, that's insane. That's insane. What have we been doing it for 5 years, 6 years?
We started 2017 Waste Management Week, which was like the first week in February. So,
I remember that because we put out we are launching a four-play brand teaser. We launched it during Super Bowl week, which is usually a fucking no-no because at Barstool Sports, when it's Super Bowl week, we blow it out. You know, like 75% of the company at that time goes down to the Super Bowl. They're doing live shows, they're doing rundowns, and the focus is everybody talk about Barstool the Super Bowl. And me and Riggs were like, hey, we're going to put out this 2-minute teaser of us launching this new golf podcast. And luckily, the teaser did really, really well. Otherwise, I think Dave would have been like, you guys are fucking stupid, and I'm putting an end to this golf podcast before it even starts.
It's insanity that we did it Super Bowl week. We are so stupid. We for months we begged Dave to greenlight our golf podcast. We had Ashley Mayo from Golf Digest at the time came into the office, and we did like a test episode to prove that we could like interview other human beings and talk to other people, and like sent that to Dave for months. I remember at one point, Trent, I think you did all the behind the scenes yourself. We recorded an episode and we just tweeted out the link like it was our mixtape. We just like tweeted it out, and we were like tracking how it was doing.
I think we did it on SoundCloud. I think we recorded on SoundCloud, and we're like, hey, this is something that Riggs and I did. Like, if you want to listen, please do. And I think a bunch of people listened to it. One person that didn't listen to the test episode, I'm pretty sure, was Dave.
That's right.
Didn't listen to it. And then one day he just walked over to you and I. We were talking about something, and he was like, all right, you guys can do it. I think Foreplay and Mixtape that you mentioned got greenlit at the same time. And was like, all right, now we're going to start a golf brand and a basketball brand. And I remember at the time, I had just moved to New York a few months before that, and I had moved in with Coley. Coley is a co-host of Mixtape, or was. And so we lived together, and we went home that night, and we were talking like, all right, now you and I just have podcasts. So we're going to try and do our best with these. We don't know what we're doing. We're not like professional podcast hosts, but we now represent the golf and basketball brands of Barstool Sports. Like, hopefully it goes well for us.
Insanity that's exactly what happened. I mean, that is, and you know, I see one of my favorites that I get, somebody DM me the other day. I was going through and responding to a couple of haters. I was on like a Frankie Borrellis trip where I was just responding to the haters. And one of the ones that gets sent occasionally is like, you know, it's so fucking obvious that you guys just raised your hands when Barstool said they needed to start a golf vertical, and you guys aren't even golf guys. I can't believe there's no way they actually hired you guys as golf people. I'm like, no, they didn't. They actually didn't hire us as golf guys at all. We got hired for completely other things. And then we're like, by the way, we love talking about golf. Is it cool if we talk about golf? And Barstool was basically like, no. Dave was like, nope, just keep doing your shit. We're like, all right. And man, it was, I want to say that we got to talk about Game Time real quick. We'll talk about Game Time in a second. It made me think about how the Super Bowl and the Phoenix Open are the same week in Scottsdale, and that's just going to burn. That's going to burn that place to the ground. I don't know if it's going to be able to survive that. But that was the SoundCloud thing. I think when we tweeted out our SoundCloud, that was like, I want to say that was almost fall 2016. Like there was still many months to go before we actually got our podcast greenlit. And it was, you know, it was a weird spot because we would send Dave test episodes. It's not like we did a million of them. We probably did a couple of them. Yeah. And we're just like, hey, have you listened yet? You know, we think there's something here. And he obviously was never under any circumstances going to just listen to like I mean, me and Trent talk about golf. Like there's no way he's going to do that. And he didn't. And yet one day he must have come from he must have come from a meeting with Erica or something about like podcasts and how we should just try podcasts, and was like, you know what? I think somebody in our company has been hitting me up about podcasts, so I'm just going to greenlight them. Oh yeah, it's basketball and golf, sure. Like, I honestly think that's just what happened, and that's why we're here.
I think that's right. And thank God that he did. And we got hired as bloggers. And I mean, I was blogging still up until a couple of years ago. And then, once we got so busy, we stopped. But yeah, people who were like, oh, you guys just fell ass backwards into this. That's partly true. But also we've been doing it. Like, there's also people who are like, you guys are just they don't know the backstory of how long we've been at Barstool. Like, you've been there for 6 or 7 years now. I've been there like almost 9 years. Like, for the people who just jump in and they see us and then they see one person be like, oh, these guys fucking suck. And then they're like, yeah, they don't know what they're doing. It's like, we don't know what we're doing, but we've been around long enough that we kind of understand the tides a little bit.
Yeah. To equate it to golf, we're not book smart, we're street smart when it comes to this gig, I would say. Like, we don't really know what we're doing, but like, we know we're doing more than pretty much anybody else at the same time. And I do think it's an interesting dynamic of the show that we're all three pretty much original Barstool guys. Like, or maybe just one half layer removed from original. Like, original is KFC, I would say, like Dan, Gaz, Dave, obviously, even like Rear Ads is in there. Yeah. But pretty much right after that is like you, Nate Dogg, and then me and Borrellis. I mean, I'm employee number 19. You're like, what, 12 or something?
12,
like that?
Yeah.
You're employee number 12 at Barstool Sports.
It's crazy. It's crazy because it's grown so much. Like, at the time, and we don't have to go fully down memory lane, but at the time when I got the job offer, it was big. Like, it was big to me, certainly. And it was big in the Northeast. It was huge there. It wasn't the national brand that it is now. So when I pitched it to my parents, because I had gone back to school and I was blogging on the side, and I, sold these shirts and whatever. And then I sent it to Dave and he read it and he liked it. So when I pitched it to my parents, it wasn't what it is now. It wasn't this national brand that everybody knows and all these live events. It was just this blog in the Northeast that was big up there, but it hadn't spread yet. So it was a tougher sell, but yeah, now we've just been around for a long time. The company's 350 odd people. Like, I'm number 12, you're number 19. That's crazy town.
That is nuts, dude. The first video I ever filmed when I went to London, and I know you have identical stories. I sent Dave an email and was like, I kind of have this idea. I'm going to get a USA onesie. I think they might vote to like leave Europe, basically, so I could go and do this funny bit about like independence. You guys finally figured it out. Welcome to the new age. And he's like, I love it. Just let me know what it costs and email me and I'll send you a check. And I added everything up, like the flights, the onesie, a pair of like USA sunglasses I bought. And it was like $1,200, and Dave just mailed me a check for $1,200. That was literally the process.
Dude, it wasn't the first video that I did, but when I went to New York for the first time, not to move, but to go make a video, Kevin, KFC, who was running the New York blog at that time, obviously, that was when the location still really mattered, where it was like, you've got New York, you've got Chicago, you've got Philly. So Kevin went on vacation, and Dave thought it would be funny if I, from the Iowa guy, went to New York and just ran around in a corn suit and like made a mockery of myself, which I ended up doing, and it was a lot of fun. But it was the first time I met Hank, PMT Hank. He was just like a general Barstool Milton producer at the time. So we met in New York, and I was like, how are we going to pay for all this stuff? Like, we're going to go and try and do a bunch of stuff. And he just pulled out a big wad of cash from his pocket and was like, Dave gave me this, and this is how we're going to pay for all the stuff we're going to do. I think it ended up being like $1,500, $2,000. And that's what we did. We used all of it. We made a couple of videos, and it was great. It was just stories like that really do remind you how far this company has come.
And it's cool when I meet people, a lot of them at the Classic, that have been reading Barstool as long as we have, because you're like me, Frankie's like me. We're all identical in that we were fans of Barstool. I mean,
huge.
I still think Dave Portnoy is the funniest person in the history of the internet. Like that's why I started reading Dave in 2008 in the library, just like grinding, trying to write papers, and we would just share Barstool articles back and forth. And to the point, man, like what was it after the Masters this year? I think it was after the Masters this year when Dave texted me and was like, "You want to do the rundown, talk golf?" I was like, "Yep." I still get unbelievably nervous. Like when I pop into that Zoom and it's me, Dave Portnoy, and Dan Katz, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here?
I'm always as nervous as I've ever been in my life when Dave asked me to do a rundown. It's been that way since I was around when they started doing the rundown. And when I would get, it would be Millmore or Hank would text me being like, "Hey, Dave wants you on the rundown." And I would just pace. I would just pace and pace and pace. Because I agree with you. I still think, and we're pumping his tires. He is our boss, but it's true. I genuinely think he is the funniest guy on the internet. So to end up working for him, because I was a huge reader of his before I got hired for years. And then when I finally ended up getting emails from him being like, "Hey, we like your blog. We're thinking about hiring you." I was like, I'm going to pass out. I'm so excited and nervous. But I'm completely the same way. Anytime I'm on a rundown or on a show, I just get very nervous about it. And I think that's still part of the magic. Like being an original-ish Barstool guy, Barstool person, you feel that. We actually talked about that a little bit on the DP show last night. I don't know if you listened to it, but Eddie was like, as the company gets bigger, you do sort of lose the people who live and breathe Barstool. And Dave was like, that's the nature of a business that we are. We're a huge entity now. And people are they want to jump on board because they see what Barstool is. They know it is rocket fuel for potential influencers. But for guys like us, it was like, we watched these guys for years. We read them. We're like, these dudes are amazing. They're funny. And they motivated us to eventually want to do what they were doing.
Totally.
And we somehow got lucky enough where we did the right stuff and we put it in front of the right people at the right time. And we got hired, and now we work with them, under them. It's an amazing, amazing thing.
It's 100% correct. Everything you're saying is it's funny that we feel the exact same things, but it is like, man, tuning into those, when I would go to my sales gig, come home, and then I would fire up the old school Skype rundowns with Dave and Dan and Kevin, and they would be bickering about like Deflategate and the latest news that came out. And I'd be like, I have to hear what these fucking guys are going to yell at each other. And you'd tune in and you'd see that little smirk on Kevin's face, and you'd see Dan just sitting there, like pretty much not moving, being like, oh, this is going to be something. And then Dave would come in bitching at like Hank about his fucking service or something. And you'd be like, here we go. I've been waiting all day for this. And then you're on the other side of it where you're like, Dave Portnoy is going to present a topic, and then he's going to look at me, and he's going to, in theory, care what I have to say about it and respond to that. You're like, yeah, fucking right.
And you got to say something that's not going to get you buried.
Totally. And it's like, fuck, how did we end up here? I would think about that all the time. And obviously we're pretty removed from that now. We get to do our own shit. We're golfing. We're going to talk about Game Time. Ticketing app. So they're the official ticketing app, exclusive partner of Barstool Sports when it comes to ticketing. Game Time's amazing. We've been using Game Time this year. I don't know how we got by without it working. You guys went to an NBA game, which I've still never been to an NBA game. I was actually talking to our friend JJ Watt the other day. Kind of sneaky storyline that we just did a video with JJ Watt and the Bob Does Sports guys a few months ago.
Yeah.
But he's an Arizona guy. I'm an Arizona guy. He had a rattlesnake in his bathroom the other day that he tweeted about. So I just texted him and was like, bro, that's my worst nightmare. Like, please keep me updated on this situation. Turns out it wasn't a rattlesnake. It was a completely harmless snake. So JJ, and then I ended up being like, I'm going to come to a bunch of games this fall. I'm excited. I don't really have an NFL team, but since you're, kind of our four-play football guy now, I'm a AZ Cardinals guy, and I'm going to use Game Time unbelievably easily. Going to use Game Time to go get tickets, go to games, go to shows. I want to go to more shows too, because during COVID, shows obviously got shut down.
Right.
Kind of wild for like 2 years. We couldn't go to a fucking show. Pop Punk. I mean, I know Pop Punk isn't necessarily Game Time, but just going to shows in general is phenomenal. So you can get $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app. Go to the account tab. Create a login. Redeem code FORE. That's FORE. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Crazy town not to just do this. So go download Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Game Time. Thank you for sponsoring us, because like we said, we're not even we can't even really believe that this whole thing exists, to be honest with you. But yeah, I remember Dave, I probably emailed Dave 100 and something times just being like, what these fucking guys are doing, Dan, Dave, Kevin in particular. And at that time too, it was like K Marco, Feidelberg was part of it.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, what these guys are doing is so much cooler than what I'm doing. I was taking the 7 bus from Southie into fucking Boston. It was just like, this sucks. That looks awesome. I want to do that. And literally just emailed Dave all the time. I had stretches where I would email him every day. I had stretches where I would go weeks without it. But I pretty much would write blogs that no one read and just email them to Dave. And one day he fucking responded. And I was like, whoa, he just responded to my email from, it was the real, and I just was guessing what his email address was. I had no idea. I was just
Really?
guessing. Oh yeah, I didn't know. I thought he had posted a few things before, I think, where he kind of doxed his own email address, but like years prior. So I didn't know if it was active or anything. I had like 5 email addresses that I was like, I'm pretty sure it's got to be one of these. And I just would fire those off. And when he responded, and I was like, oh my God.
That's
and then
so crazy.
Dude, I was correlating that with his tweets because he was tweeting about being on the train because he was going from Boston to New York at the time. So I was like, this seems real because he's clearly on a train. He was like tweeting about a stoolie or something on a train, being like reading Barstool and not realizing that he was Dave or something like that at the time. So I was like, clearly he's on a train just going through shit on his phone because he's on a train. He's bored for 4 hours. And this makes sense that he would be. And he emailed me back right away. We went back and forth like 10 times. He asked me a bunch of questions you're not allowed to ask people about hiring. Like, how old are you? Like, literally,
Yeah.
it's like all illegal. That you can't ask.
I got very lucky. I sent one email and I got a response from that. So I sent mine to, there was the old tips at Barstool email where it was reader, they would do reader blogs where it's like send in a topic and we'll respond to it or send a question. And I just sent one to the general tips email. I think 2 days later, I got an email from Dave's email, and he was like, I'm in Turks and Caicos. I'm on vacation or wherever he was at the time. And it was like, but I'm getting back on Monday. So let's talk then. So I don't know what he was on vacation, just sitting somewhere on an island, and he was reading email and was like, oh, I'll read this guy from Iowa. And he liked it. And that was it.
How amazing is that? Holy
insane.
cow.
It's insane, dude.
And so that, to bring it all full circle, when people were like, you guys kind of just got lucky and fell into this golf thing, like, yeah, that's pretty,
and we did, but we're trying to make the most of the opportunity. That's totally all we're trying to do.
Totally. And I luckily, I think that our listeners and our people that watch all the videos at Breaking 90 and come to the Classic, they understand that like it's not an accident. The shit that goes into the behind the scenes to get us where we are is just relentless work. But on the surface, it is very funny to be like, yeah, I mean, it's a couple good breaks, really, that like if those breaks didn't happen, none of this exists.
I agree.
And now to go like about how outrageous it is Tiger Woods. We got to talk about Tiger Woods. He was this news started to break as soon as we published our show on Tuesday. It kind of broke that Tiger Woods was heroically flying up from Florida on his private jet to Delaware, Wilmington, where the BMW Championship is this week, to attend a meeting that Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods set up and were essentially leading a meeting. They invited the top 20 players in the world and, also a handful of other, relevant stars, important names. I know Kiz was there. He's, I believe, like the chairman of the Players Council or something along those lines. So clearly he's involved in this type of stuff. He talks to Monahan all the time. But basically the biggest talent and stars in the game of golf on the PGA Tour were invited to this private meeting that lasted 3.5 hours, and Tiger Woods flew up for it. Now it was Alan Shipnuck, the Fire Pit Collective boys, who were fucking awesome. I love Matty G. Shippy was on our show in May when his book about Phil came out, which is a great read. So those guys are awesome. Shipnuck broke the whole thing, I believe, and was tweeting, about Tiger. Hilarious storyline that Tiger's going to fly up from fucking Florida with his leg and the whole deal. And then he lands, and, only in Tiger fashion, there were 50 elements of the video that could be broken down. I feel like, I mean, he came off, his leg looked horrible. I'll say that right out of the gate. And I saw a bunch of people replying, being like, I hope that leg's just asleep from the flight and all kinds of stuff like that. Kirk Minahan texted me. It was like, Jesus, that leg. the guy almost amputated his fucking leg. All right. So the fact that he made 2 cuts in major championships this year, like it seems to me, I can't even, when I see him walk like that, I'm like, there's no way that guy's ever going to play golf again. He made 2 cuts in major championships this year. So that's a miracle. Yes, he's going to be limping around and shit when he doesn't do ice baths and warm-ups and everything else.
That's what I was thinking about. Like when we see him at these majors and these golf tournaments, you got to remember that he probably woke up at 3 a.m. that day and has been working that leg and the days coming up to it. Like that whole day, he's been taking ice baths. He's been getting massages. So when you see him at a major, you see him walking around, that is as good as that leg is going to look because he's put in the work. And then yesterday, it's what was it? It was a Tuesday afternoon. He's flying on his private jet, getting off and walking to the car. He's not going to look all that great. We all know that leg is in horrific shape. And when you see it in a situation where he hasn't been working it all day, I would imagine like he would be if there were a tournament that day, it's going to look really, really bad. And it did not look good at all.
He's limping around. He's like dragging that thing around basically, which again, I think, when he makes those, because I selfishly, when he makes the statements of like, I'm never going to be able to play a full PGA Tour schedule again, I'm like, no, dude, you made cuts in majors. Like, you're fine. What are you talking about? You need to be more cut. You don't see what really goes into it. That thing, right. That leg, he's lucky he has it. It's clearly, I think he broke like every single bone in his foot and ankle and had all that put back together and then trying to somehow weave the muscles in through there so that it works properly to the point where he can be an elite athlete at the top level of a game where there are now dozens of young athletic studs coming in. And the fact that he beat a bunch of them multiple times this year and made cuts at majors, it's fucking amazing. So he's amazing. He's the best. This whole thing too really reminded me of how he is just a fishbowl guy and will be a fishbowl guy forever. There's nothing that man can do. When the split second, his dome piece appeared from underneath that plane, camera super zoomed in from like a fucking fence, which is a creepy camera. Zoomed in on him, every detail of him getting into a Nissan and not a BMW. Every single footstep that man takes is documented and scrutinized on the internet, on TV. And it made me flash right back to the Tiger Woods book, which is called Tiger Woods, about like, I feel bad for him in those moments. Like genuinely as a guy, yes, we've spoken with him. We walked up the fairway with him. We spent an hour with him at the PGA. So ever since that, I do see him more as a human being because he was just shooting the shit with us, which we've talked about on the show a lot, which was really cool. And I almost was just like, dude, you're just a person. And that person getting off of a plane and walking to a car and getting in the driver's seat, that was broken down. And we're gonna break it down more. It was broken down on the internet for fucking days. That's broken down.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, that's what comes with the territory of being just an absolute phenom, one of the best athletes ever. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate because we did walk with him at the PGA and getting to see his view was stunning. Just walking up a fairway and it's all cameras at you. And the great thing about him, it seems these days, is he doesn't even notice it because he's been around it so much. He's just kind of like, yeah, he's talking to us. And I'm looking like we've got probably 10,000 camera phones on us right now. And he doesn't even notice. So it is going to be like that forever. Like he hasn't been obviously the winning machine that he was in the early, late-ish 2000s, but he's still Tiger Woods and people are still super interested in what he's doing at all times. And I do want to talk about him getting into the driver's seat because I know that was pretty much everyone's takeaway. Everybody was making the same joke. Everyone was talking about the same thing. But I genuinely want to say that I don't think he should be driving anymore. Like, and it's clear now that he's stubborn about it. Like, he wants to drive. Like, there were clear, like, Ricky Fowler was in the passenger seat of that car, has a driver's license, I would imagine, hasn't been in so many car wrecks as Tiger Woods has. Like, if he just swaps and Tiger's in the passenger seat and Ricky's driving, there's not this entire wave of conversation on social media being like, why does this guy continue to drive? And I think it's becoming clear to me that he's stubborn. Like, when they got off that plane, I think he said, I'm driving. He loves to drive. even though, history would say that he's not that great at it, but he loves to drive. It's getting to the point now where he's like an old man. He's an old man, but I'm talking like 80 years old where, your grandpa, eventually you got to take the keys away from your grandpa. And he is at that stage now at 45, just because he's been in so many bad situations in a car. Somebody's got to take those keys away from him.
Dude, old people, I had a run in this morning. Old people, I would say like once you get to pure like white hair old, so I don't know if that's 70 plus, let's call it like, 75 maybe. Is it? Yeah, no, 70 plus. Because I would consider like Cousin Mike and Cousin Murray, who you and I both did a radio show with them. When we were doing those shows, they were like 72 and they were old. They were just old people at that point. Sure. I would say like that demographic of person, they do not in any way care about you on the road in any way. And this morning I drove over to get coffee at Agora, which is in the village of Pinehurst here. And there's just an old couple driving in front of me. And the guy I could tell he's looking for a parking spot. And there's spots over on the left on the street and spots on the right. And he just drifted right across the middle of the road into the other lane. No turn signal, no like directed movement. He didn't like target a parking spot and was like moving into it. He just drifted that way, just kind of generally sensing the situation and was just looking around, no turn signal, and then just kind of drifted back into his actual lane. And then finally just kind of made a left and found a spot and didn't at no point did his speed change. His speed was identical this whole process to the point where when the car fully stopped. He was just softly sort of drifting through life on the road. And I'm like, that's just unbelievably dangerous and illegal. But he's so old that it was like, that's just how he's going to drive.
It's like the old Seinfeld bit, which is exactly what we're talking about, where it's like you get to a certain age where you don't look back when you're backing out. You're just like, I'm coming back. And it's up to you, the other drivers, to figure out how you're going to avoid hitting my car. Once you reach a certain age, it's no longer up to me.
It was like, at first, my first inclination was like, what the fuck is this drunk idiot doing? I got a look at the person and was like, oh, it's an old person. Like, totally fine. I got to just, my caution level needs to be higher. This is his road now, and I have to figure out how to not crash into this person. So yeah, I think Tiger has pretty much reached that level. I think we've discussed this before, but I do think for Tiger, and I couldn't agree with you more, he should not be driving. As a fan, as a friend of his, as his brother, he should absolutely not be driving under any circumstances. But I do think it's very clear that is one of his things, that as the fishbowl guy, he gets to drive a car. It's independent. It makes him feel like a real person. He gets to dictate where he actually goes, right? Because his whole life is dictated for him, his schedule, what commitments he has, what appearance he has to make. It's all dictated for him. He doesn't really get to decide. Driving, he gets to decide. He gets to decide if he goes left or goes right. Unfortunately, he has decided to drive off cliffs and into fucking fire hydrants and to think that he's in Orange County when he was in Jupiter. Fuck the Jupiter police, by the way, still. But the point is that I think I am totally hypothesizing, but I believe that he uses that, or he feels that as like, I get to be a normal person and like drive around this earth wherever I want, and nobody really knows who I am because I'm inside of a vehicle. And I think that I'm theorizing that that's why he likes to drive so much.
I think that's a super interesting and valid point. He doesn't ever get to decide what he's doing normally, so he decides to drive and he can make those decisions. Actually, makes me think that's why his fashion is so crazy. It's like he gets to choose when he's not on a golf course, because they tell, like, Nike's like, these are the things they're going to wear. And on Sunday, he knows what he's going to wear. But on a regular day, he gets to choose his own outfit. He's a bit like Frankenstein and Big Daddy. When he just wears whatever, he gets to pick and wear whatever he wants. And Adam Sandler's like, all right, I guess you get to wear that today.
100%. 100%. He's like a 5-year-old child it's like his revolting against the world when he gets to dress himself. He's like, fuck you. I'm going to dress like a total asshole.
That's super interesting. The point that you made about driving, like, I wonder what aspects of Tiger's life are like that. Driving is like that. what he decides to wear, not on a golf courses like that. Those two are for sure. I wonder if there's other parts of his life that he's like that.
Dude, he's like a Catholic school girl who's got the skirt and the uniform, and then the second she gets home, it's like gothic tattoos. She's got a chain on. She's like, "Fuck you." He's wearing a flannel, walking around in August in fucking Delaware. I mean, it's unbelievable.
He's got this repressed independence that when it's able to come out, it's crazy. His fashion's crazy. His driving's crazy. It's just, it comes out in such an extreme way.
Go off, King. I want him fuck him. I do want him to come out with a chain. I want him what is like those, a choker. If he came out with like a choker with a spike on it and was just like, fuck everyone. I don't have my Nike golf outfit on. I'm a rebel. So I think that is kind of what we get from him, and he had that phase where he had the frosted tips. Remember that? He had like the blonde frosted tips hair. So I think that's part of it. And he does look ridiculous, and he's gonna get scrutinized for everything. So then he jumps into the Nissan. We got to talk about the Nissan. First, I want to talk about Myrtle Beach. Tiger did a trip up to Delaware. You could do a trip over to Myrtle Beach a couple weeks away. I think we're 2 weeks away now.
I've never been. I know Lurch has been, and I know you and Frankie got a little taste of it. Didn't get the full experience, but I've never been at all.
We dipped our toes in.
Yeah, you waded into the water a little bit. I have not been there at all. So I'm very excited to go down there. Obviously, you hear about it your whole life. It's a golf mecca. There's all these restaurants. There's all these different activities you can do. And I think we're going to experience a lot of the golf activities, a lot of non-golf activities. I'm very excited to get down there.
I will say it was when you arrive there, you do sense quickly, why it has the reputation, that it has, because there's shit everywhere. There's golf courses, there's hotels, there's sandy white beaches, there's really nice high-end stuff. There's a little bit more grimy, low-end stuff. Like there's something for everyone. They have over 70 golf courses, and that's really that's us, right? Like we are all from pretty modest means, and then we've been able to, sometimes we're at like Oakmont or we're at Pebble Beach, but we really came from like playing munis. So everybody, I think a lot of people from our show too, as you get a little older, you start, you move up in your career, you start to make a little bit more money, but at your core, you sometimes like to throw it back. You remember like your original, bachelor party days, like the first couple of guys that got married, in like your low mid 20s when nobody had any money, and you're just like, you got like 18 guys staying in one fucking hotel room. So you get that aspect if you want Myrtle Beach, if you're a younger crew, and you can again go the other end, which you can get like a fucking condo on the oceanfront villas. They got all kinds of good stuff. TBC Myrtle Beach, Pine Lakes Country Club, and Paulie's Plantation. If you visit barstoolmyrtlebeach.com, you get a free round of golf. All you got to do is request a no obligation quote, and you will receive a free round on one of 21 different Myrtle Beach courses. Start planning your golf trip at barstoolmyrtlebeach.com. Get a free round of golf while checking out the Barstool Brews Bucks package. That's barstoolmyrtlebeach.com. Free round of golf. Check out the Barstool Brews Bucks package. I'm excited for Myrtle. We got 4 rounds of golf lined up. Ad read's over. I'm just talking about this in general. We got 4 rounds of golf lined up. We got some crazy encounters, I believe, with prehistoric creatures lined up. So it's going to be wild. I think it's going to be a wild series. We're trying to incorporate more, what you guys have done a great job of like the tourist boys. We're trying to kind of marry tourist boys with travel series. So it's not just as hardcore golf. We're still going to get a lot of the hardcore golf, but I think people like to see kind of the squad just out in the wild.
I think so too. And if there's a place where there's a lot of activities that we can get into, get into trouble, not real trouble, but we'll be off the course. We'll be in Myrtle Beach. There's a lot of stuff we can do, and we're going to try and show people as much of that as we can.
I'm pumped for Myrtle Beach. All right, the Nissan. So I was, it's the BMW Championship. So I don't know how the fuck Tiger Woods and Ricky Fowler getting off an airplane don't have a BMW. A buddy of mine made a good point because my text groups were going crazy. This is Tiger being the needle, right? All your group texts were going nuts yesterday. Everybody's tweeting the video. Everybody's making the same jokes in your group text that everybody's making on Twitter, which is to be honest with you, it's quite annoying for us because we see it all right away on Twitter. And then like over the next few hours, you get like your buddies all make the same fucking shit jokes. And you're like, dude, you're 2 hours behind. And I get it. They're at work. They have real lives. Shout out to Big Rob, those kind of people. But anyways, somebody made the point of like they might have gotten in a Nissan because Tiger and Ricky are so marketed that they might have conflicting car partnerships, that their teams were like, sorry, BMW, you can't get free ads here by these guys getting off, so we're just going to randomly rent a car. And so Nissan got the plug instead of BMW. But if that's not the case, it is one of the great fumbles of all time that BMW didn't have, their creme de la creme. What is it? Creme de la creme? Creme.
Yeah.
Ready to go, because the engagement, just tens of millions in engagement, social, all that was from that fucking 15-second video of those guys getting in that Nissan.
Yeah. And it's honestly, if you're Nissan, you're kind of like, damn, if they had the first conversation that you're saying where it's like, we have conflicting brands, like, so we just got to pick the most middle of the road vanilla car that's not going to make a ton of noise, and they're like, let's get a Nissan. That's tough for Nissan. Yeah, it's a miss from BMW because you got to know, everybody knows, Tiger knows, Ricky knows, all the camera guys that are there. It's going to be a documented thing that happens when that plane lands. When that plane lands and Tiger Woods gets out and gets into a car, there's going to be cameras all over the place. So you got to know that going in.
I can't believe they got in a Nissan. It was shocking. It was a shocking moment. But I think you're right. I think they were like middle of the road, non-controversial, just like average, just the most average car of all time. Brand, let's go Nissan. They jump in the Nissan. It's him and Ricky. Ricky being there, incredibly interesting. Ricky's one of the biggest stars in the game. That kind of comes on the back of us talking about that the other day. I mean, we made the point of like Ricky is clearly not even close to one of the better players in the world right now, yet he's a top 5 star in the game of golf and will be. So Ricky has been rumored for months now to be going to LIV. He actually didn't even dispel those rumors when asked. I want to say it was around it was probably 3 or 4 months ago when Ricky was asked. And he was like, yeah, there's some aspects of it that are interesting, so I'm kind of considering it. And then for him to be on the plane with Tiger, going to basically, they're viewed, he's viewed in that moment as sort of the pivotal actor in this whole movie, coming to like make the iconic speech to convince people not to go to LIV and to like squash it and tip the scales in the favor of the PGA Tour. That his right-hand man that flew with him to do this saving was Ricky fucking Fowler. That was shocking.
I think Tiger knows that a guy like Ricky jumping is a big deal. Like if he goes, then it's like he's not one of the best players in the world right now, but he is one of the most well-known golfers in America, certainly. So if a guy like that jumps, that's just more like, oh, now we got, the American boy, Ricky Fowler, jumping over to LIV. So I would imagine Tiger's keeping him pretty close. Now, maybe they were just in the same place and Tiger was like, hey, I'm taking my private jet. Do you want to ride up to this meeting? But I think it's deeper than that, almost to the point, and we can get into the meeting because I wish I knew what happened to that meeting. I wanted a live feed. I want to know everything. But I wonder if at one point Tiger turns to Ricky and says like, look, this is a guy here who might go. He's playing like shit right now. He's been playing like shit, but he's going to get $80 million from LIV and going to jump if we don't do something about it. Like, I wonder if at any point Tiger just threw Ricky under the bus as an example of like, you don't even have to be playing.
Sucks at golf. He's going to go to LIV. He's terrible.
Like,
they're going to pay him so much money. He's fucking horrible.
He kept him close, brought him on the private jet, and then threw him under the bus being like, they're paying guys like this, guys who just have notoriety but aren't playing well. We got to figure out a way to make the PGA Tour more, we want guys to stay and not jump to LIV.
Tiger's like, he's got like a projector and he plays like a slow motion version of Ricky's swing. He's like, look how bad his action is. He's fucking awful, man. Look, he's way over the top. He's just like just destroys Ricky. And he's like, but they're going to pay him $80 million. He's going to go like, we got to do something, man. We got to do something.
What do you think? I mean, what are your overall thoughts on the meeting? Like, what happened, you think?
So, I know it was being the sexy thing on the internet was it's being branded as like Tiger's going to, basically grab people by the collar and be like, you're not going to fucking LIV, are you? I think that was the fun angle. I don't think that's what happened. I think that the more that came out about it, it was basically Tiger and Rory sort of leading a players discussion roundtable type thing about what the tour can focus on doing so that it's not so easy for guys to just say, yep, I'm getting guaranteed money, I'm going to go to LIV. And so whether that means, just floating ideas, trying to better shape the future of what the tour offers to players so that guys are not no-brainer enticed to just jump ship. And so whether that's guaranteed contracts for certain players, more money into the PIP program, more money into FedEx Cup, higher prize pools, whatever, less mandatory playing, a reshaping of the schedule, maybe like get rid of the fall series so that guys don't have to play to catch up. I know that's been a big Ricky thing or a big Rory thing. Whether that's, addressing things like I think it was Matthew Fitzpatrick and John Rahm who complained about the FedEx Cup format for these 3 weeks being back to back to back. Like any combination of all of those things, I think that the meeting was generally hashing those things out so that the players' council, in this case, basically just the de facto commissioner, which is Tiger Woods, can then go to Jay Monahan and say, hey, let's have a real convo. I'm now armed with this information after talking to all the big stars that you don't want to lose. Here's sort of what, we think needs to get done so that Cam Smith, Ricky Fowler, Justin Thomas won't even really fully consider going to LIV. That's sort of my take on what the general ethos of the meeting was supposed to be.
Because and I agree. And if you think about it, they have the same leverage that Phil wanted to create, except that they have stuck around and they can now use it to change the PGA Tour. Now, Phil used it in like a bowling ball going 10 million miles per hour, hitting a glass table and just like exploding everywhere. Like he was reckless abandon. Tiger, Rory, Ricky, JT, all the stars who stuck around, they can make those same changes from the inside now because it has gotten to a point where people are going. Like there was a point early on where it's like, no, Phil's going to go. Maybe DJ's going to go. I mean, DJ was a stunner, but they're not going to get anything crazy. That has shifted. That is gone.
Yeah.
Cam Smiths of the world are gone. Bryson's gone. Brooks is gone. These are big name guys that are gone. And I agree. I think what this meeting with Tiger will bring about is change from the inside. Like if you want changes on the PGA Tour and you don't want to burn it all to the ground like Phil seems to want to do, now is the time to actually do it. Like Tiger's, I guarantee he's saying to them, like, we know that the PGA Tour isn't perfect. And if you want to make changes, real changes, now is the time. This weird renegade league has appeared out of nowhere and is offering incredible sums of money for people to jump. And that has created leverage for the players in the PGA Tour, especially the stars, to make the changes that they want. You don't have to jump. You don't have to burn it all down. We can make changes. I will take them to Monahan, and we will make this a better tour. That's what they have to be doing. And I think it's going to happen. Like you said, Tiger is the de facto commish. Everybody listens to him. He has more pull, more sway than anybody in the world of golf. He can go to Monahan and really lobby for the changes that the big stars want to see.
Yeah, and I think that's necessary. And we've talked a lot about leverage and what the tour has and doesn't have. And so I do think, when people complain or people are so quick to just shit on Monahan and the tour and be like, they blew it because this other league is allowed to. And we've, I think, done a good job of making the point of like, the tour didn't have many cards to play. If somebody comes in with unlimited funds as a business competitor and they don't have a legitimate business model and they can just throw basically preposterously inflated numbers at your best employees, you're going to lose those employees. This is, I think, an effort from Tiger, Rory, and the players that do believe in the PGA Tour to give the tour, the best possible hand that it can play in this scenario. Well, whether that fully is able to tip the scales, who knows? But if it can affect a handful of folks, it really, I do think, was kind of a savior type effort. And it speaks to how important it was. The moment is that Tiger flew up for it. I mean, Tiger fucking Woods, whose schedule, we already talked all about it, the fishbowl, he just wants to hang out with his kids. I'm sure his kids are getting ready to go back to school. It's a big time for him. He lives for that. He's, by all accounts, the best dad in the world, and that's his whole life is those kids. And he just flies up, for the day on a Tuesday to fucking Delaware to be in a 3.5 hour meeting that I'm sure he didn't want to, it's not fun what they're doing in there. So it speaks to how clearly big the moment is. And we've talked a lot about LIV, and I think justifiably so now, especially that Tiger Woods found it so important. He flew up there. I have to shout out Pat Perez. I love that man. He's been texting me a lot, and I'm not going to air out the things that he's been saying, but just he's been watching all of our clips that go out on social and we break this down. And he's like, yep, here's what you guys are right about. Here's what I disagree with. And he's just been super cool about the entire thing. And he did point out, he's like, we don't finish on Saturdays. We finish on Sundays, which we got wrong. But it was the first event. I guess the first event finished on Saturday. And he was telling me, he's like, yeah, they did that just because most of our guys had to get over to the JP McManus Pro-Am, which was like Monday, Tuesday or something like that. So they finished on Saturday. I think they've only had 3 events. And the only one that I watched was the first one when they finished on Saturday, not Sunday. But we just got that wrong. So we did like a whole bit about them.
That was my whole thing. I was like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to stick it to LIV and be like, you guys aren't serious because you're not finishing on a Sunday. And then that clip went out and people were like, they finished on a Sunday now. And I was like, I was wrong. I was wrong.
So we were wrong about that. We were wrong about that one. They do finish on Sunday, so good for them. I would say not great for their traction thus far that we don't even know when they finish. But maybe they'll get to that point. But yeah, we were wrong about that. So credit to us for admitting that we were wrong.
I do like that we have Pat Perez as our off-camera fact checker for LIV versus PGA Tour. If he wants to keep doing that and we keep bringing updates, I would love that.
It was great too because I could tell in real time his where he was at and his consumption of what we had said, because he was firing things off just off the hip. So he'd be like, yeah, crazy about, the Will Zalatoris and the finish. And then he'd be like, we don't finish on Saturday, we finish on Sunday. And he, I could see where he was at in the show and in the clips that were coming out. So it was very funny. But yeah, he's the man. I love Pat Perez. And again, I think that's like, we don't, even though you and I, Trent, especially, I think throughout this whole thing have been pretty anti-LIV and pretty pro PGA Tour. It's not like we despise or have, this animosity towards people that go. Totally get it. Somebody offers me $25, $50, $100 million. That clearly changes my viewpoint on things, and I might be over there fucking singing LIV Golf all over the place. But just trying to have objective takes on the entire thing. And I love Pat Perez. He's the man. I've been talking to like Kessler, who's Patrick Reed's caddy, is the man. And I know those guys are just living life right now because they're making a ton of money. So it's interesting. We're going to get, people have been like, he's got to get a LIV guy on the show. Graham McDowell was going to come on, and then his schedule changed, so he couldn't make it. We'll have a LIV guy on eventually and just be able to kind of go through stuff, I'm sure. But there's no animosity. It's just, we just prefer the tour that I think does things for the game of golf, not for nefarious reasons.
Have you seen a LIV guy do an alternate media podcast?
I don't think I have.
I'd be curious to know, like, if we set it up with a Pat Perez or a Graham McDowell or whatever, like right before, like, would we get talking points? Like, I would be very curious to know, because I could see LIV being like, well, that's tricky territory for us because they can kind of ask you whatever they want, and that might put us all in a potentially odd position. So I would be very curious to know what the set of circumstances would be if we got a LIV guy on the show.
It is a good point. It's weird. Like, I almost feel like I can't even ask them to come on the show.
I know.
Like, I don't know why. And, it's probably because the media angle of it has been so weird. I mean, in Jersey, they they planted like comedians to ask like comedic questions.
Right.
Like that. So they've done some weird shit when it comes to the media angle of the whole thing. They had like, they kicked Shipnuck out, and then he had the hilarious text exchange with Norman where Norman acted like he didn't even know about it, and then the video came out where he was right behind him watching the whole thing. So like they've had some, LIV has clearly not handled the media in general particularly smoothly throughout the whole thing. So I guess that's probably why I feel a little, I just feel weird about it.
I do think, and it would be unfortunate because I wouldn't want to do the interview if they sent us questions that we could ask. Like if they said, these are the questions that we're comfortable with you asking, me personally, and we would be a discussion amongst us who do the podcast, I would be like, that's not something I want to do.
No, never. Never. Yeah, I don't know. Like, it might be as simple as they don't want to, right? They probably, they feel a little bit adversarial vibe from, just the public and the media right now. So they're just like, fuck that. I got my millions and I'm just playing golf and I'm going to just let this simmer, which is probably the right move, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's sort of what happened with Graham, where, we were trying to schedule this and he, at one point, he was just super open and honest. Was like, do you think this is a good idea? And I was like, I don't know if it's a good idea for you. I'm not really not going to LIV doing the show. I was like, I really don't know if that's a good idea for you because I don't know what you're going to say. And so I think that they're, the LIV guys are, they're probably just like, dude, if I don't need to do this shit, like, why am I doing it? It kind of goes back to what we said about the brand building. Like, if you kind of just took your money and you just want to play golf and then play golf 10 times a year and then make a ton of money and do something else, why would you be going and doing podcasts with the boys,
I agree. I agree. It hurts us, but I agree.
Yeah, right. One thing that doesn't hurt us, Truly Hard Seltzer. Truly Hard Seltzer. Clean, crisp, refreshing hard seltzer with a hint of fruit. I actually bought, I got the right there, the punch pack, which is one of my favorites. I hadn't had a punch Truly in a while. Those came out like a year and a half ago, I feel like, or maybe a year. And I hadn't had one in a long time. I got a bunch of the original berry flavors here at the house, but I was like, I want some of those punch. I actually bought a case of those. We had a few last night out on the patio. I had forgotten how just refreshing and absolutely delicious Trulies are, especially on like a hot, humid day in the summertime, which is what everybody's going through right now. How about how hot it's been this year, just everywhere?
It has been in New York. I can speak to that. It has been unbearable up until like 4 days ago, with humidity finally broke, and it's been like mid 70s, high 70s, and it's been actually great. Like when Frankie had his birthday party on Saturday, the weather was perfect. But the weeks and months leading up to that, unbearable. Like I will go out and play golf on like a Saturday morning early to try to get out there before the heat's too bad. And even then it's humid as fuck and I'm just sweating my balls off. So it's been unbearable for most of the summer.
Been hot. It's been hot everywhere, man. Just really hot, humid, which is when you need some Truly. So all cans have under 110 calories, 1 gram of sugar. They're naturally gluten-free. Find Truly Hard Seltzer near you at trulyhardseltzer.com. And reminder, we're not going to do From the Gallery today. We got too much to talk about. We did Memory Lane. We did the whole thing. But we're about to go through the dog days here in like the fall and winter when there's probably not going to be a ton. So we're going to need to load up on From the Galleries. And thanks to the Trotty rule, you need to tell us what your favorite flavor is. So forwardplay at barstoolsports.com. That's the email address. Title it From the Gallery so we can search easily. And then you have to tell us what your favorite flavor of Truly is. If you don't tell us, we ain't fucking reading it. We're not talking about it. So let's load those babies up this fall. We're going to get through a ton of them. We're going to do a bunch of long shows where we just rip through your guys' questions and hypotheticals and all kinds of crazy shit. Thanks to Truly Hard Seltzer. They sponsored From the Gallery. They sponsored the Barstool Classic. People have a great time drinking Trulies. I had a funny, in Philly, we go to the hotel bar on Sunday night. I was with Mancini, who's the man. Just fucking love Mancini. And I had gone, it was credit to me. This isn't going to sound that great, but I went 8 straight days, not a single drink. I just did a full reset in Scottsdale. Didn't leave my apartment after the 64-day road trip. And when you're on the road, with what we're doing, it's like beers pretty much every night. Sometimes you send it. You don't get any really good sleep because you're packing the next morning and you're on a flight and the whole deal. So I did a full reset. Didn't go out once. Not a single drink from Saturday at the wedding that I went to a week and a half ago until Sunday night. I go to the bar and Mancini and Peter, a couple of the interns, come over and we had probably 5 or 6 drinks over the course of like 2 hours and had ourselves a great time. But the point was that there's a couple guys that were playing in the Classic that were at that bar, and one of the guys was like, he had tried some flavor of Truly and was like, Big fan of the tournament. No way I'm drinking that stuff tomorrow. Just no chance, Riggs. I know. I get it. It's the sponsor of that. I saw him about 9 holes in, and he had like 4 empty Truly cans in his thing, and it was like his son, I think, that was playing with him. And he was like, I didn't realize they have so many different flavors. These punch ones I found are phenomenal. I was like, yeah, I told you last night. So they got over 30 flavors at Truly. You're going to find something that you like. They're phenomenal. I think he was really into like the margarita ones, which I actually like that pack a lot too. So trulyhardseltzer.com. Go find a flavor for you because I got a ton, and we appreciate them. All right. We got Tiger Woods at Starbucks too. I had to comment on that. That was a really funny picture of him. Just as soon as he landed, he had to figure it out and go to Starbucks. That's a big Trent Ryan move.
Yep.
Whether you're in Vienna, which we talk about with Sepp Straka, no matter where you are, you might be one of the great Starbucks loyalists on planet Earth.
It actually is the first thing I do when I get to a new hotel, wherever we are. I just go on Google Maps and I put Starbucks in to see where the closest one is. And luckily, it's a large, huge brand, and there's usually one within 45 feet of wherever I am. So, but yeah, wherever I go, I love Starbucks. They've got their hooks in me, and there's no way it's ever going to leave. So I shout out to Tiger. That might be the only thing Tiger and I have in common, is that we both have to find a Starbucks whenever we land.
I agree. I do prefer Dunkin' if I can find it, but Starbucks is delicious. You know what you're gonna get, and it's really kind of our Midwestern upbringing where you kind of have your chains and your go-to. Midwest is a huge chain, just spot in general. Yep. So it reminds me of like McDonald's, where it's like, is McDonald's my favorite meal on earth? No, it's really good. It's not my favorite, but I know what I'm gonna get. Like you just 100% know what you're gonna get. And there's a comfort in that. I like that. And so I'm same way kind of with Starbucks or / Dunkin' as well. So it was nice to see Tiger, same deal. I'm sure on his fucking $50 million private jet, they could have a Keurig, they could whip up their own coffee, no problem. Yeah. And he's like a Starbucks guy, and that's just part of his deal. And I thought of you, Trent, and I'm very similar, not as hardcore, but I was very much like, love that. He's going to drive his fucking car. He's going to drive it to Starbucks. And that little 5-minute window is where Tiger Woods is like, I'm a normal person.
He's like, I'm wearing a flannel. I'm drinking my Starbucks coffee. I am a normal person.
Do you think for the meeting, do you think he changed into Nike golf gear?
I think he wore the flannel. I think he wanted, because I think when he puts on the Nike stuff, other players get a little nervous. They're like, what guy are we going to get here? Flannel Tiger is like, hey guys, let's save this tour that has made my entire life.
Yeah, he went Clark Kent, not Superman for the.
That's right.
Trying to relate to the guys. I think you're right. That would be really funny if he's like, I got to go to the locker room real quick. And he came out, red fucking mock neck, black pants, and hosted the meeting. I mean, come on. I think 15 years ago, if they had that meeting, that's what he wears. I really do. I think he does it as like a show of, this is who I am. He likes to be one of the guys now. He's a bit of a softer Tiger. We've talked a lot about that. So I think he kept the flannel on. Could you just imagine being Ricky, and Ricky and him are walking in side by side, and Tiger's like, hey, I'm sorry, I got to duck into the locker room real quick. And Ricky's like, what? And then he comes out like 30 seconds later, and he's just full cape. He's just ready to go and be like, oh, fuck. I didn't know we were going full outfit.
I really do. And it probably wouldn't be as sexy. Nothing is ever as sexy as Twitter makes it seem, or when you're talking about it with your buddies. Like if there was a transcript of that meeting, it probably wouldn't be as like crazy as we all want it to be. But there had to be moments that were very, very interesting. And we'll never know, but I'm sure it was a very interesting meeting.
I'm wondering, like, do you think there was anyone like a professional MC there that sort of monitored, or do you think it was like legitimately up to Rory and Tiger on who spoke, the process, like who spoke first, who was going to address the room, right? Because there's probably a murmur, just a bunch of guys in a room together murmuring, and then someone has to at some point take the stage, hypothetical, stage, and like address the room, and then throw it to Tiger or to Rory, or open up the floor, right? Like, who do you think handled that? Do you think they just did it themselves?
My guess would be it was Rory. Yeah, I feel like Rory would open the meeting.
Tiger needs to be introduced.
Yes, right. Tiger's not opening the meeting being like, hey, I'm Tiger Woods. Like, that's not happening. Rory probably opened the meeting being like, this is why we're here. Appreciate everybody who came here, especially Tiger Woods. We know, how busy his life is, blah, blah, blah. And now Tiger Woods is going to speak. I think Rory would be a pretty damn good MC for an event like that, actually.
Yeah, I think
he's
so,
like,
too.
he's very thorough and he speaks very well. Like, he knows how to set things up. And Tiger is, I don't know how he is in those rooms. We just know how he is in front of the media. I think he's better being set up by somebody like Rory.
Yeah, he can't. Rory could dish the football. I feel like Tiger can't dish the Tiger. Like, somebody's got to dish the football to Tiger. He can't be up there fucking, yeah. Yeah, I agree. God, what a meeting. I wonder, do we know if Netflix had access to that?
Wow. That is a really good question. If they didn't, it's the biggest miss. Although, I mean, it's amazing how these things work. That Netflix series is really happening at the perfect time with all the LIV stuff, everything that's going on, people jumping. A couple of the guys that they have, I think, jumped like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it is. Like, that's going to be very interesting. That meeting, it is the culmination of everything that has been going on. So you got to hope that they had access. My gut says no. Like, it felt like a closed door players meeting. But boy, if they got access to that, even just like the opening part of it, that would be huge.
I know. I think they might have because, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they might have, but I'd be really curious because, the only real thing against, or the thing helping Netflix the most would be that anything that's not time sensitive, they're pretty much going to get access to, right? So if it's like, oh, we're going to make decisions, they'll be rolled out publicly in the next couple months. So if you guys air this next January, it's just not going to matter. But if there's things that could potentially be said in that meeting that there's nobody ever wants out, which is probably the case, then they're probably should be like, no, there's no chance you're in here.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm actually very curious about whether or not they
call it 50-50. I'm going to say 50-50 Netflix might have been in there.
I think that's good.
Last thing we got to get to before we throw it to you and Frankie and then to Sepp Straka, Patrick Reed suing Brandel Chambly for defamation of character. I actually haven't done a deep dive into this yet. This kind of broke last night and I was at dinner and pretty hungover today, to be honest with you. And so I haven't really dived that deep into it, but very funny. I saw a couple of the quotes. I know Tiger, I believe, has potentially sued Brandel Chambly before too. I think for Brandel, and I've been pretty public about this, but Brandel is one of my favorite people in the world. I actually get like triggered when I see PGA memes or somebody like be maliciously roasting Brandel because I get that he's hateable. We talked a lot before we ever had him on the show about how he's smartest kid in the room type feel, so he's very easy to dislike in that regard. Having gotten to know him, he lives out in Scottsdale, him and his wife Bailey. They are so unbelievably cool and funny, and he gets it. I would say like that's probably one of the great compliments that you can give to somebody. He just gets it.
Yeah.
He totally understands stuff, and he understands the sentiment and the response. He just gets it. And he's so fucking funny and chill, and he takes things so less seriously than you would imagine when you hang out with him. So I love Brandel. He's the absolute man. But him getting sued by Patrick Reed, it just made me laugh. I don't know the details. I saw it come across my desk and I just laughed out loud when I saw it.
Well, here's the thing that Patrick Reed doesn't get is that people do feel that way about Brandel. The way that you explain, they're like, this guy is a know-it-all and he drives me crazy every time I see him. But when you put him up against, how the world views an even bigger asshole, then people are going to be like, oh, and then I'm on Brandel's side of this Patrick Reed lawsuit. And I read a little bit about it. I didn't do a deep dive either, but the defamation suit seems insane. Like there's a part of it that says Brandel, Jay Monahan, Golf Channel, and the PGA Tour have had it out for me for 9 years. They have been trying to bring me down publicly. They keep bringing up these cheating allegations when they're simply not true. And there's just these parts of it that are, I can't believe that it actually got to a point where Patrick Reed's lawyers at some point were like, all right, do you want to go ahead with this Brandel Chambly defamation lawsuit? And he said, yep. Or Justine said, yep. Not realizing that the public is going to see this and be like, oh, I'm on Brandel's side of Patrick Reed suing Brandel for defamation. That doesn't make any sense. Brandel is a public figure who is part of the media, part of his job is commentary on the golf world. He's going to talk about Patrick Reed because Patrick Reed has all of these things surrounding him where it's like, he's a cheater. There's video evidence that he cheated in the sand at the Hero World Challenge. And like, he's going to talk about that and have opinions.
Big time evidence, like really clear evidence.
You can't sue somebody for that. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure you can't sue somebody for that.
I mean, by this standard, he could sue us. I mean, we've talked about the same shit. We talked about it a lot, like back in a couple of years ago, whenever that was going down. So yeah, very funny. Brandel too. I just, for whatever reason, was reminded of like last time I was in the office. He was actually there that day, and he's such a trooper that he jumped on the yak with Big Cat, who Big Cat has just been trolling him because Big Cat and Brooks Koepka and their little crew, they've been trolling Brandel for years. And Brandel hopped right into the yak, having no idea what that show was, just knowing Big Cat was there. It was like, oh, what's up, Big Cat? So he's a trooper. For the people out there listening, I love Brandel. I think he's the fucking man. He's always been great with us every time he's come on the show. Yeah. Even when you do disagree with him, he loves it. He likes spirited debate. He doesn't take it personally. So him getting sued by Patrick Reed, very, very funny. I enjoyed every second of that when I read that. All right, Roman, testosterone affects a lot of aspects of men's fitness. We got a little testosterone test coming up. I think Frankie Borrellis is going to take a testosterone test from our friends at Roman. Incredibly excited to see these results. Our group chat was abuzz last night when Frankie said that he would happily volunteer to take the testosterone test from Roman. So I don't know what that's going to yield there, Trent.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know exactly what the test is, but I hope when Frankie takes it nothing doesn't even register. Like I'm thinking of a needle like on a thing, and it doesn't even pop up when Frankie does a testosterone test. I'm very interested to see what Frankie's results are.
Roman T support is meant to help men maintain their body's natural testosterone production with the proprietary supplement formulated by Roman's in-house doctors. Men's testosterone starts to deplete with age. That's father time coming at you, which is why it's important you support it early. Go to GetRoman.com/Fore to get $15 off your first order of Roman T support. That's GetRoman.com/Fore. GetRoman.com/Fore. From sex drive to muscle and bone mass, experts believe testosterone plays a huge role in our body's natural function. So go to GetRoman.com/Fore. You get $15 off your first order of Roman T support. All right. I believe we're going to have Frankie. He's going to update everyone with his father from Pebble, which I'm excited to hear about. And then we got Sepp Straka. So that's pretty much the show. Trent Daddy, it's been real. What a little trip down memory lane. I like when we do these.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I like talking about that because it reminds me just kind of where we're at, what we're doing, how far we've come. Yeah, I enjoyed the show immensely.
Everybody enjoy the rest of the show. Enjoy Frankie, enjoy Trent, enjoy Sepp Straka, and hit it hard. I'll be back on Tuesday.
Hit it hard. All right, we are now joined by Frankie Borrelli. We said we were going to have him hop into the show to recap his father-son trip out to Pebble Beach. So he joins the show now. I believe you played MPCC today. You played Pebble yesterday. Just kind of run people through. Let's do a little recap of the trip you've been on for the last couple of days.
It's been a hell of a trip, Trent. It's just been one of those things that it's just been fucking every second of the day. You're like, wow, this is a really, really cool place. Really, really cool trip. There's never a dull moment here at Pebble Beach. It's been today we played MPCC. I mean, I'll get to that, but yesterday we played Pebble Beach, and I also want to get to the lock. I got a lot of DMs and tweets about the lock situation. The lock situation has not been solved. So we're leaving in the next 30 minutes, and that's it. I don't know. I don't have a lock. The lock people didn't come. I don't know.
What's the latest from Josh on the lock? Is he okay with you leaving with the lock broken, or are you just kind of you're wiping your hands of it and you're leaving?
The front door's got 3 locks on it, so it's one of the locks that he wasn't even had a key for anyway. I mean, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like this door's locked, and then to get into the place you need to get a key, and then to get into the other place you need a key. So we tried our best. I mean, we tried our best. A locksmith didn't have the lock. It is what it is. I don't know how to fucking fix it. I'm going to have to text Josh and be like, listen, I'm trying my best. I don't know. I can't. It is what it is. I don't think they were using that lock to begin with. The whole entire problem was that I locked something that didn't have a key to it. So like that's why we got locked out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even
for
like
sure.
outside the house, there were places that they could have gotten us in if I didn't lock that lock. So I fucked up.
For sure. And I don't think it's as big of a deal. I understand that you're staying in this guy's house. He's letting
He's
you
the
stay
nicest guy of all
there.
time.
For sure. But he is the nicest guy of all time, which is going to mean it's not going to be as big of a deal with this lock as you think it is. But I get that you were staying there and you're like, the first thing that we did was lock ourselves out and ruin the guy's door.
Yeah, it was like ruining our trip. I was like getting mad at my dad. So I'm like, we have to fix this lock. He's like, we don't have to fix the lock. So we did that. We got through that. We played Pebble Beach yesterday. So in classic me fashion, I came all the way out to Pebble Beach and I'm telling my dad about all these views and I like to fucking get all revved up and I get caught up in the moment and I'm like, I'm a views guy. Yesterday was a marine layer. It was like the thickest marine layer of all time. We went to go drive by the Big Sur and we're looking at pictures of what it's going to look like. We get there and it's just fog. You can't even see the bridge. We went to Bixby Bridge. You couldn't see a thing. We were laughing to each other like, this is insane. It's essentially like God was holding up a white cloth in front of his greatest creation. Like, behind here is the greatest view of all time. You're driving this road, California 1 or whatever it is, California 1. You go all the way up the mountain, and we just couldn't see a thing. So we're like, all right, maybe at Pebble will be a little bit better. Get to Pebble. Everyone there knows us. It's such a cool experience to like have everyone there. All the workers know everything that's going on. The guy at the starter knew who we were, so he was like excited that we were playing. We got really lucky. We were the last tee time of the day. We got really lucky with the fact that there was an event for someone that had passed away or something. There was an event there, a scramble all day long. So the entire course cleared out, and then there was only like 3 groups that were out on the course.
No way.
It was just like a foursome, a twosome, and then us. And like that's it. Like we were the only people out. So like we played in 4 hours. Pebble Beach,
Whoa.
which is fucking insane. It was just me and my dad. We didn't get paired up with anyone. Me and my dad at Pebble Beach, strolling across the greatest place on earth. It was definitely a marine layer to the point where like you couldn't see like all the stuff in the background that makes 7 amazing. Like, but you saw every single hole. So like you took it hole by hole. Like it was actually a really cool experience where the fog was around the hole and the hole was just like floating in the clouds.
That is cool.
Like, dude, like 8. Like you don't see the cliff, the amazing cliff of 8 until you're right on top of it. And you're like, holy shit. Now we're above, like the clouds were below you almost, like the fog.
Yeah.
My dad had a line where he's like, you're calling it fog, I'm calling it clouds because we're in heaven. It was a whole thing. I got it on camera. He was like tearing up the whole way. So yeah, it was amazing. I definitely got caught up in like, you don't understand what this actually looks like, Dad. And I'm like, we're coming back. Like, you know what I mean? It was one of those, like, we got to come back. We have to see it. You can't experience this in the fog. But then I tried to put myself in his shoes where it's like, that's his first time ever seeing it. And it still looks fucking insane. Like, dude, 6 in the fog, you're literally taking a stairway to heaven. You're like, going up 6, the whole entire top shelf was covered by fog. So like you're hitting into nothing. And then you get up there and you see 7 down there. So
it's kind of a cool way to experience it.
It really was. You take it hole by hole. It was awesome. The only thing we missed was like the beach scene on 9, 10, and 11, which I really missed because that part's like, that's where you FaceTime people. You're like, look at this fucking place. So that was a great experience. I played lights out. I shot like an 81. I fucking played lights out. Missed a bunch of putts. Hit every fairway possible, hit a bunch of greens in regulation. My caddy was like rolling with me. He was loving it. Every single shot, we were taking shots. We were taking videos of. I'm going to make a whole video of this, so it should be pretty fun. My dad played great. He hit the ball. He advanced the ball. He's all about just like getting through with the hole. Like he doesn't care about his score. And he made a couple pars. He made a couple bogeys. Like it's just like, at the end of the day, like that's all he wanted to do. He didn't embarrass himself out there. He's nervous, obviously. It was just us two, so that was the best part.
Yeah.
7. So I walked up to this golf course yesterday, and I told my caddy, I'm hitting the green on 7. I've been playing the best golf of my life. I dropped from an 11 to a 5 in 5 months in my handicap. It's hard for me to not break 80 right now. It's like I just know where my clubs are where my ball is going. I know how long my clubs are. I know exactly my distances. So we get up to 6. I fucking almost eagled 6. I'm rolling into 7. We get there. We're gonna do a video on that hole for foreplay verse, right? So my dad's filming me at 7. I'm saying I'm gonna hit this fucking green. It's playing 90 yards. I take a 54 degree.
Yeah.
Trent, when I tell you I've been fucking hitting these things to 2 inches, like I was dropping dimes with my 54 degree. I get up to the ball. I do this whole. I have video of it. I do this fucking whole thing. All right, we're hitting this thing. I go chunk.
No.
Barely got it off the tee. Haven't done that all year. When I say haven't done that all year, I haven't done that all year. I chunked it. I'm 0 for 4 on 7 at Pebble Beach. I hit it into like the shit in front of me. So then now I have my next shot. It's like a 60 degree. Dude, the fucking caddy had to take his rangefinder out. That's the second time in a row. I did this with Colt Nose where he's like, I've never seen a caddy have to shoot the yardage for the second shot at 7 on Pebble. So now this guy's like, it's 63 yards. I'm like, I hit this thing 27 yards. So now I go for the next shot and I fucking nip a wedge and it hits the top of the hill, the lip and goes into the bunker. So now I'm like, all right, I can't make a fucking 3 now. So now I'm frustrated. I'm still doing this for foreplay verse, and I'm like so frazzled that this happened that I didn't even tell anyone to now film my next shot. So now the foreplay verse has gotten ruined. We can't use it, and I end up hitting a perfect bunker shot that sits on the edge of the hole for par.
No.
Tap in birdie. It's the best bunker shot I've ever hit. We didn't get it on film. So now my dad's like, now I'm ruining 7 for him because I'm like, how do we not film that? And he's like, my dad hit it pin high just off the left. So he has a little chip to maybe make an up and down for a par. I'm like telling him like, you got to get like, I'm like, how'd we not do that? And he's like, I don't know. We're filming shit. It's like a father-son thing. I'm like, I don't know either. So
God.
7 is my bugaboo. It's fucking crazy, man. I can't get over it. And then 8, I hit a fucking 3-iron, 6-iron, a 3-iron, 7-iron, 2-putt for a par again. Like, it's like, I can't miss on that hole. But 7 is insane. So, I birdied 6 and then parred 8 and then made a 4 on 7. So it's like, I can't do it.
That's like it's your number 5 at Rockville, like I have. It's just,
Bro,
and unfortunately for you, it's the most iconic golf hole in the world that is your bugaboo.
When I tell you something overcame my brain when I took the club back, it was like I had no chance. I decelled, I chunked. Dude, the divot in the video, the divot goes 4 different ways. I hit 13 inches behind the ball. But that's not what this trip has been about. We got through 7. We shared a good laugh about it. We had an amazing time coming in. It was a little bit of a grind, like 16, 17 was a little tough. 18 was really eerie, like dark, and the fog was coming off the ocean, and like that tree was just like illuminated. And like the videos I have a slow motion video of my dad. He hit right into the tree, and he's like, "I thought it was 90% air." He's doing all these things. He's hitting his second shot. He hit the fairway on 18. He's hitting his second shot, and he goes 90% air. I'm gonna go right through it. I'm like, not here, not at Pebble. He drills the tree. It just goes into it and down. I'm like, what were you thinking? It's like 1% air out here. So that happened. We had an amazing dinner. We went up to the hay. Dude, there's this thing. There's like a car show out here. And I think I was talking about that yesterday on the last show. And like, bro, there's like Model T cars going down 17 Mile Drive. Like the coolest cars ever. Like Bugattis, Lamborghinis, all these new concept cars from like Mercedes and BMW. They're being driven down. You can see all these camera rigs like filming all these shots going around the fucking bends and all this stuff. It's cool. So we're up at the hay, and you could just tell it's different type of money up there, man. Like international Formula One money, like these like Spaniard billionaires and like Frenchmen and like Italian guys wearing Gucci, and like their kids look like weird, like they're like these like odd teens that are worth $1 billion, like wearing fucking leopard pants and shit. I'm like, what is happening up here? It's a different type of breed up here for this week. Like, I think it's Pebble money, but also it's the biggest car show in the world. Like in the world, the biggest car show. They're going to sell like $40 million worth of cars or something like that here. Jeez. So yeah, it's fucking nuts. So, that was an amazing day. We just had a good time at the hay. We had a great dinner, and then I got Tiger fajitas. It's called Tiger Woods' fajitas because he built the hay, and it's the hay is really cool, man. Like every hole has a story. Like the 7th hole is based off of a guy that won in 1977 and it has his name. So like everything has a story for it. It's really cool. So then we wake up. And we're playing Monterey Peninsula with our guy Joe Miranda. I mean, just an absolute beauty of a person with him and his son. So it's father-son, father-son. We go out there. I didn't know what to expect. I kind of knew what to expect because Riggs kind of let me know, like, this place is absolutely fantastic. I was bummed about the fog yesterday. We got the ultimate. My dad this morning, like, kind of screamed upstairs to me, and he's like, hey, I think we're going to have a great day. Like, I can see the ocean from the house today. Like, meaning, like, the fog is actually moving away. And I'm like, no way. I run downstairs like a freaking kid on Christmas. And we look outside. It's perfect. Yeah. We get to Monterey Peninsula. We're at the range. Perfect. We get up to the first hole of Monterey Peninsula with our guy Joe. Perfect. First couple holes, they call them throwaway holes at Monterey Peninsula, the shore course. This is where they play the AT&T also. They play one of the rounds on this course. It is... I mean, Pebble is Pebble. Pebble's a beast. It's number one. It's got all the views. It's the, like, you can't beat that land. Nothing can compare with 6, 7, and 8. But when you're talking about strictly a golf course, I don't know if I've ever seen anything more breathtaking than this place, fucking Monterey Peninsula shore course. Like, all these holes, like, these holes felt like they were like ends of the earth at the end of them, and it's just the ocean. And then you're right on 17-mile drive. So like I said, like, these Model Ts are running by, and you got these pretty women in all these like top down cars, convertibles, and it feels like, I don't know, like the Beach Boys should be playing. And the sun was hitting the beach, and people are out there with their dogs, and like, I was playing out of my fucking bird, dude. Like, there was like 3 or 4 par five. All 4 par 5s felt like they were long, but I think 3 of them were about 180 playing 200. I hit a 5-iron, and I swear my proximity to the hole was no more than 10 feet on all 3 of them. Jesus. Like, I was hitting darts from 200 yards out. I shot 78 today, and I missed a bunch of putts. Dude, Joe shot 75, and he only had 29 putts. He was rolling these balls in. His son was like on pace to shoot like a 77, and he was like a 10 handicap. My dad ended the day on like one of the best pars of all time. He was cruising through the entire day. He also hit it into the bunker maybe 35, 40 times today. And he was huffing and puffing. He didn't play the 17th hole. He said he needed a hole to walk. He kept saying, I feel like I'm like a land animal out here. He kept saying I'm a land animal out here, just going into like burrowing into sand and coming out. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. He's like, it's just ridiculous. So we had the time of our lives. My dad walking off 18, like, I think it's just all, he's like crying. Like, I was like looking at him. He's just like, what a couple days. Like, he can't believe it. He was just like, and I had the camera on him. I'm like, because I don't know if people are going to be like, oh, you're filming everything and like, you're not experiencing with your dad. But it's like, dude, I'm going to be able to go back and rewatch this entire thing. It's not like we didn't like do any commentary. I just like filmed some shots and like some reactions, and it's so cool to be able to see all that stuff. And like last night we were sitting on the couch, we were sitting in the car just like rewatching stuff, and it just looks better when you rewatch it, because when you're in it, you're not like absorbing it all, and you're like, holy shit, Dad, we actually played Pebble Beach yesterday. Right. Like, we're out here at fucking Monterey Peninsula. So fucking awesome time.
No, you're gonna be happy you've got those videos and that.
Oh my God,
for sure. Like, yeah, I think, are you going to put a video together to put on our YouTube?
I'll try. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a bunch of like quick cuts and stuff. I'll try and do as best as I can, but, cause I didn't want to take away from everything. So I got like quick videos, but there's some funny stuff on here and some just really good moments. So I'll probably put together something. We'll throw it on the YouTube page. So that should be fun, man. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know how many people care about this, so I kind of like just talked about the entire thing just now.
They definitely care about it. They definitely care about it because it's a cool trip. Like, and it's something that you've never done before. Like, we're always working so much. We're traveling all over the place, going to different golf courses. Like, this is probably the first real quote unquote vacation that you've taken, and certainly with your dad. Like, we never do that type of stuff.
No. Yeah, it was really fulfilling, like, type of feeling of being like, yeah, like, he talked about it a little bit when we were at the airport. I had like the GoPro on him. I'm like, you excited for this? And he's just like, yeah, like, you live your whole life like giving to your kids. Yeah. And you don't like, you expect that just happens forever. And it is cool to be in the position of being like, hey, no, like, we're going to, like, I would hope my kids at some point would do that for me, because I don't want to not ever have anything given to me ever. You know what I mean? Like, you don't, just because you have kids doesn't mean it's over. Like, you don't just never get anything given to you again. But that's the type of guy he is. He's a give guy, and he's never gotten that. Like, no one, you know what I mean? Like, he's such a give guy with everything. So,
yeah, that's the great thing about your dad is he's never thinking about anybody. He's always thinking about everyone else and never himself. So to be able to give his son a trip like this is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it meant the world. So it's so cool. Really, really fun. We have a kind of a grind to get back now. It's like a 10:30 flight. We're going to figure something out today. Like, I don't know. We'll go to like San Francisco, find something to eat or something. I was actually thinking about maybe like going into the Giants game from like, I think the game's at 7 and our flight's at 10:30. So like maybe going in at like 4:30, seeing the ballpark, getting like ballpark food, maybe watching 2 innings and then leaving. You know what I mean? Because I don't care who wins that fucking game.
No.
I don't know. We'll see. We might do that.
All right.
That's it. But yeah, that's the trip. It was quick. It was impactful. And I want to make it like a tradition. I mean, hopefully we can like add people to it and stuff. It'll be fun. Like just keep coming back here because we like this place it's doable. There's so many people out here doing the same thing I did. Like they're doing like once in a lifetime trips and like it's not like it's not doable. Like I feel like life is all about vacations and making these moments or else like what else is it? You know what I mean? Like you got to go do this stuff. You have to do stuff.
Right. And you actually have to commit to it. Like you've been talking about doing this for a while and eventually you got to book the flight. You got to talk to somebody about where you're staying. And then once you start doing it, and then it's like, oh, we're doing this. The date's coming up on the calendar. We got to go. And then you go and it ends up being just what you want. It was a great experience.
Right. And people might be like, oh, you're like, you guys are entitled. You have like all these connections and stuff. But it's like, I put money aside and was like building up to this. You're like, this is something that like I wanted to save for. You know what I mean? It's something you want to be able to save for and pay for. Like there's nothing going on at Pebble Beach. They're making sure that thing is the price every single time, no matter what it is. So, yeah, no, it's I think everyone should just go out and do stuff and just rip. I texted someone, I'm like, I just ripped the Band-Aid off and we went. Like that's kind of like the feeling. It's like, like we're just using all our points and we're just flying out there and we're just going. We're going.
Because I think if you hadn't had this stuff booked before you told your dad and you'd been like, hey, we should go to Pebble Beach and like play a couple
never go.
He'd be like, I got the restaurant, I got all these different things I got to do. If you just force him to do it, he's going to do it and you end up having a great time.
Yeah, man, it is fucking fun to be able to do this stuff, and you just got to take advantage of it. And I did, and I'm glad I did. And now, we have that forever, and hopefully we can just keep doing it year by year. So that's the story. Hopefully it didn't bore too many people, but it's been a fucking fantastic couple of days. I can't wait to get back, though.
No, it's great. I'm glad we had you hop on and recap it. We've got Sepp Straka coming up next, which you were there for. We did that interview a couple days ago. Before we throw it to that, talk to me a little bit about cross-country mortgage. I would do it, but you have firsthand experience with it.
Well, one of the reasons I'm able to do this is because I was able to save a little bit of cash on the side by locking in an amazing interest rate on my house that I got at the end of last year. So cross-country mortgage is the mortgage that I have. I have a mortgage with cross-country mortgage. Chris Devon, my guy out of Boston, helped me through the entire process. The biggest thing that I learned, and I did a lot of research, I wasn't always going to just use the company that sponsored us. Like you have to make the right decision for yourself. It's like a lot of money that you're getting as a loan. You have to make the right decision. I did a lot of research. Cross-country mortgage was legitimately the best decision to make because they're actual people. You call up these big call center companies like Quicken Loans and all these other Rocket Mortgage, all these types of companies that have these huge advertisings, and you're like thinking, oh, I'm going to get the best deal with them. You're just a number to them. You're calling these massive call centers that pick up the phone. They want to know what your account number is, and they want to know exactly when you're going to be making your payment, and then that's it.
Right.
With cross-country mortgage, like I was saying, Chris Devon sent me a bottle of alcohol and our mat to get into the front door is from cross-country mortgage. They want to make sure that they're real people that are like a part of your life. So listen, I've got them for the next 30 years and we're now buddy and we're all really close. I think that they're definitely worth checking out and I love them.
Yeah. If you want to check them out, all you got to do, see if you qualify, go to ccm.com/Barstool. See if you qualify. Cross Country Mortgage LLC, NMLS 3029, all loans subject to underwriting approval. All right, we've got Sepp Straka coming up next. It's a great interview, so enjoy that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined on the podcast by Sepp Straka, who had a phenomenal week last week, finished second, crazy playoff. We were talking a lot about it. Oh, there's Borrellis right there. Look at him live from Pebble Beach.
Hello.
Frankie's on vacation. He's jumping in for this one.
Feeling it right now. What's up, Sepp?
What's up?
We got Sepp. We were talking a little bit pre-show, but you got a really official backdrop behind you. You just had a PGA Tour, man.
Yeah, they set me up in the media center today. I got the official BMW Championship background.
It's like a legitimate presser here. I like it. So you mentioned obviously, I mean, this show will go out Thursday, so people know it's Tuesday morning. So it hasn't even been 48 hours since the playoff, the finish, everything else. How you feeling right now? You still kind of reeling from the whole thing?
Yeah, took yesterday off. I just went home and flew out yesterday afternoon after that playoff, and yeah, kind of digested it a little bit yesterday and gonna get ready to go here this afternoon.
How is that? Like, what is that digestion process right? Like, I mean, you clearly played extremely well. You hit a ton of really, really good shots. You did everything to win a golf tournament. I imagine it's probably not a ton of over reflection, right? You're probably feeling pretty good.
Yeah, you try to think about all the good shots, but somehow that last shot keeps popping into my head. But yeah, I mean, you just try to remind yourself of all the good shots you hit, and just kind of try to move on.
Let's talk about the last shot, because I didn't, in real time, it's easy for us. We're watching on TV. We're like, oh, he knows where, Willie Z's ball went. It's in like a cave on a cliff, like almost in the water. I asked afterwards, it sounds like you didn't really know where his ball was.
No, I mean, I knew it was not in the water. I thought maybe it could be on the rocks, but maybe it was in the grass. I couldn't really tell from where I was standing. And yeah, I just really didn't know it was in that bad of a place. I mean, that ball was pretty deep down there. Pretty much might as well have been in the water.
So how does what Will does before you go affect what you ultimately decide to do on your tee shot?
I mean, not a whole lot,
Okay.
I was thinking he was dry. If I'd known he was in the water, maybe it changes my line a little more, but not a crazy amount. I mean, if he stuffs it to a foot, it probably changes it the other way a little more, but yeah, it didn't really affect that outcome. Didn't really affect too much what I was thinking.
And I mean, to be clear, people love you on social too, because you're an aggressive player in general.
Yeah, generally, I like to kind of go for it.
Both of your tee shots on the first two playoff holes, everyone was like, well, those are in the water. The first one, it felt like you knew where it was going. The second one was a little bit more iffy.
Yeah, the first one was a really good swing. I thought the wind was kind of going to hold it a little more, but it was a really good swing, and I felt pretty comfortable with that one. The second one, it was a decent swing, but I mean, that thing was a good bit left of where I wanted it.
So yeah, I want to go back to then the third playoff hole, because I find it amazing that you're basically like, yeah, whatever Will did, I wasn't really going to affect me. Like, you were going at that pin no matter what. Is that pretty much what you're telling us?
Well, no, I was definitely not aiming at the pin. I was trying to hit it left of the pin. I definitely pushed it, which that pin's not great for. I'm generally a drawer of the ball, so I'm starting this ball maybe just a hair left of the pin, trying to draw it back towards the middle of the green. And I just kind of pushed it, kind of just left it out there, and the wind kind of ate it up, and yeah, that was it.
That's the story.
That's it. Yeah,
That's how it happened.
It's it is interesting, the fact that it's the FedEx Cup playoffs. There's 3 events. It's sort of a culmination, obviously, at East Lake. Does it feel a little bit, almost like that was kind of game 1 of a series, not like you lost the series?
For sure, yeah. I would say a lot more than a regular tournament would have. Just a lot quicker, kind of getting over it and just worrying about this week, and that kind of solidified me in the East Lake. So thinking about that, that whole 3-week stretch, kind of put me in the race there.
When you're watching Willie Z like talk about with his caddy and look at the shot, and he's like looking at his ball, making a decision, what are you thinking during that time? Are you like staring at him, hoping that he's like going for it, attempting it?
Part of me, maybe a little bit.
Or whispering like, play it.
You're like, dude, I think that's actually good. I think you can probably get a club on that.
Yeah. I should have maybe gone over there and told him, that's not as bad as I thought.
I could hit that shot.
Oh, shot. You got so lucky there. Like, as you walk by.
You're good enough for that one. But no, I was just, I was just happy. A little bit, part of me was just happy that I kind of had a little bit of hope, if he doesn't get that ball up and down out of the drop zone, most likely we're going on to the 12th hole, and I was just trying to keep my mind on my putt and keeping my mind on the things I could control.
Another thing that stuck out to me that I loved was, down the stretch, back nine, even the playoff, you had quite a few putts that were kind of like mid-range putts, and you were going for them. I mean, you were giving them a run, and if they ran 4, 5, 6, 7 feet by, then you were just pouring those in. Like, is that kind of part of your aggressive game, or were you just hitting them too hard?
I couldn't really feel my arms for most of the day. So most of it was just hitting them a little too hard. The putt on 18 in the first playoff hole, I had a similar length putt in regulation to win. And that one kind of banked back up into the hill. Whereas my second one in the playoff hole, it was just straight downhill after that hole. And there was nothing stopping that ball. And I was pretty surprised it went by that far.
I can't believe, same. And as that's happening, I'm like, oh man, because anybody on our skill level, we start panicking. Like, that thing gets 5, 6, 7 feet out. It's like, we miss that every time. And then you just somehow, I guess, you gathered the feeling in your arms because you were pouring them in on the comebackers all day.
Yeah. I was pretty comfortable with my putting. Like I said, couldn't feel my arms, but my stroke has been pretty solid all week and kind of starting where I was looking. So I knew that if I kind of just get that read right, I had a really good chance of making the short putts.
How often do you get the no arm feeling?
I've probably had it 5 times in my life, 5 to 10 times, somewhere in there.
Is that all pressure, or what's that stemming from?
Yeah, definitely pressure. Yeah.
Okay. Any other weird feelings that you get besides dead arms?
Yeah, dead feet, legs, kind of
might be a nerve issue. Like, not
Can't
nerves,
feel
like
anything.
not
Dead
nerves
feet's
from like the
different, I'll say
actual
that.
tournament, but nerve damage, like actual nerve endings in your feet and your legs seems like you might need to get that checked out.
Is it a more comfortable feeling, like being in that position 5 to 10 times, like you're saying? Are you over the putt being like, well, I can't feel my arms, but I've been here before?
Yeah, having been there before definitely helped. I've been there before a number of times in my career, and just kind of knowing that's part of the fun, right? Just having that feeling and still hitting good golf shots is pretty cool. Because I mean, we can stand on the range and hit great golf shots day in, day out because we do it every day. But being in that situation with everything on the line, kind of hitting good shots in that situation it's kind of a rewarding feeling.
Sepp Straka just so focused on trying to get dead arms and dead feet every week. Like, that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Sunday afternoon.
That's where you want to be.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's what you want. That's what you want. You're just trying not to feel anything, basically. So, I want to talk about the fact. So it's been, I believe, 6 missed cuts in a row, and then you come out, play phenomenal, and almost win. I want to talk about that because as in any level of golfer, everyone can relate to that, where you can play for weeks in a row, not have your game, be unbelievably frustrated, and then all of a sudden, whether you're 20 handicap, 5 handicap, whether you're one of the best players in the world, you could kind of find it. So for you, missing 6 cuts in a row, I think it's been since the Memorial when you made a cut out there, and then all of a sudden you're in this feeling where you can't feel your feet, you can't feel your arms because you're playing so well, and you're trying to win your first FedEx Cup playoff event. What did something change for you? Did you just have it? Was it like a swing lesson? What happened that was the difference this last week?
Yeah, so the 6 missed cuts in a row was, I got a little too much thinking about my swing during my tournament rounds. I don't play well with swing thoughts at all, obviously. And so I had a little bit of that going on, and then actually had some really good practice with Tillery at the Wyndham, where I finished dead last. The leading up to the tournament days, we actually had a few really good practice days, but obviously wasn't able to convert. Still kind of thinking about my golf swing. And then last week I just kind of shut it off. I practiced on the range a little bit, but after that, when I went to the tee, I was just focused, on my target, just where I wanted to hit it and what kind of shot I wanted to hit. And it was obviously worked out pretty nice.
All right, quickly before we get to Sepp Straka, we got to talk to you guys about BioLite. We've been drinking BioLite all the time. We had the mini golf tournament that was about a month ago now. That was all sponsored by BioLite. It's been hot this summer. New York has been a borderline nightmare with this humidity and how hot it's been drinking a lot of BioLite. BioLite is a physician formulated recovery drink made with all natural ingredients that will help you feel better fast. Frankie, what are your favorite things about BioLite?
Well, I love BioLite when you're doing an athletic activity, whether it be golf or you're playing beach volleyball or whatever. You got to bring it whenever you get dehydrated. But I also love it the day after or while drinking alcoholic beverages. I just had a huge birthday party and we had the entire refrigerator stocked with BioLite. It just hydrates you, and that's what you have to do when you are drinking, when you're having fun. You have to be able to stay hydrated. On this trip specifically, we have a bunch of BioLite with us. You forget when you're golfing a lot and when you're on a vacation to drink water. You just do.
Yeah.
And you need this stuff to just like get you back, and it almost like saves your ass on all the water you forgot to drink. You know what I mean? It's equivalent to like 7 bottles of water in one BioLite.
Yeah, I really like it as like a hangover hack, because when you're hungover, you're drinking as much fluid as you can. And with this, like you're saying, I think it's 6.5 to 7 like sports drinks in one bottle of BioLite. So you drink that and you're already, you're ahead of the game in terms of the hangover. So BioLite is great. BioLite is now available to purchase directly from their website. All you got to do is go to drinkbiolite.com/Barstool and use the code FOREPLAY, all one word, FOREPLAY. You're going to get 10% off your first order. Again, that's drinkbiolite.com/Barstool. Use the code FOREPLAY. Get 10% off your first order of BioLite. We love it. We drink it all the time. You're going to love it too. You mentioned Tillery, and you probably don't know this, but I also work with John Tillery. He's been helping me. Yeah, I've been doing this breaking 100, which I did, breaking 90. And he has been my swing coach, my guide during all of that. And I love him. He's like the best guy in the world. What's it been like working with him?
It's been awesome. I mean, he's the man. Just hanging out with him every week I kind of was hanging out with him a little bit before we even worked together, just because he's an awesome dude. And he knows so much about the golf swing and about all that. So he's been awesome to work with. And he really, I feel like he kind of cares about his guys just as much as we do, and he really and puts so much time into it, and yeah, it's been really great working with him.
It's funny that Tillery, because we view him as kind of a clown a lot of the times. I mean, he's always just giving a shit, and he's hilarious, and he's just he's unassuming. You know how he is. He just wants to like chill by the lake and go on the boat with his boys. But the amount that he is obsessed with, and Trent talks about this a lot, obsessed with the golf swing, like obsessed with, and knows the golf swing and knows every single move, every person's move, the good, the bad, the things he likes, the biomechanics. Like Tillery is, he reminds me, and you're in this group, obviously, as a Georgia Bulldog, like Kiz and Tillery. Reminds me of Kiz a little bit too, in that sense, where Kiz is like, he likes to play it up and he puts videos out where he's boozing, but like, he's unbelievably serious about being good at golf. And Tillery reminds me of that when it comes to the golf swing, how much he's obsessed with the golf swing.
Yeah, he really is. I don't think there's anything that Tillery likes more than a good conversation about a golf swing, which I am not that way. I don't know much about the golf swing. I don't really try to think about the golf swing too much. And so it's kind of been fun working with him and just kind of learning more about my swing and how it works.
Yeah. Do you, are you a TrackMan guy? Are you a feel guy?
Definitely not a TrackMan guy. I just don't understand all the numbers. I kind of let Tillery look at those and tell me what I need to do. So yeah, definitely more of a feel guy.
Yeah. I like
100% on this side. This is great. I'm like, that makes me smile hearing that.
Yeah.
It's like we're trying to be you, basically. Yeah, we're feel guys, but it's like we probably should understand something because what we're doing.
Because we don't have feel. He's got
clearly
feel.
Not what's your favorite club?
Favorite club's probably driver. Love hitting the driver. Been pretty good at it my whole life, but the putter's kind of catching up recently.
That's good. Those are two good clubs to have that are your favorites. Was it frustrating for you then not being able to hit driver on 18 because that hole just doesn't really set up for it?
Yeah, I was a little surprised Will hit driver there. Honestly, I didn't really know in the playoff where he was going to hit it. Because the first drive he hit, he necked it a little bit and still went through. But yeah, I like 3-wood too. But yeah, a little bit frustrating. Couldn't hit the driver.
I could you could sense too how much you enjoy being like the feel guy, because a shot like you hit on 17 when you were like 197 out in the left trees and you chased that one up. That was sneaky, like one of the sickest shots I've ever seen.
Yeah, that one came out just right. I didn't really know how it was going to come out. I was just hoping it didn't come out hot and go in the grandstand back there. So I'm just glad it had a little spin on it and turned over and kind of ran up perfect.
That was cool.
On the second playoff hole, when you hit the drive close to the water, you ended up taking penalty relief. What goes into that decision? Because I know on the broadcast, they said that you had taken your shoes and your socks off, then you put them back on. So what was the decision making in that scenario?
Yeah, I took my left shoe off and tried to see if I could kind of get in there, and it wasn't too deep. And it really wasn't too deep, but I almost busted it because it was so slick. And I knew if I tried to do any kind of swing there, I would have ended up in the water. So that would have been a little embarrassing. But yeah, I decided to go with a smart play, put it in the fairway and try to get up and down.
Worked out.
I want to talk about the Olympics a little bit. You had your your twin brother on the bag, shot a 63. Is that like your top moment of your professional golf career so far?
Yeah, I think it's definitely up there. The Olympics was awesome. Obviously it was COVID, so we didn't have all the fans and all that, which kind of sucked, but just Japan, my first trip to Japan, it was sweet. Loved the country. The course was great and just an awesome kind of feel to be part of that tournament, and having my brother on the bag was just kind of icing on top.
Yeah, you and your brother played college golf together, right? Twin brothers. I mean, 2 minutes apart, right? He likes to say that he's older than you by 2 minutes. I think I read, which is a funny little thing.
Very proud.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, how's that like relationship been with your brother? Like growing up with golf, did you both like push each other to become like better? Like, what was the competition like having two elite golfers at like the same person?
It was awesome. Just having him there, the whole, our whole careers and our whole lives, being able to share every moment pretty much has been great. And I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for him. He always pushed me to be better. He was the better junior golfer, and I always wanted to beat him. Obviously, that was the number one goal. And he set a pretty high benchmark to do that. So yeah, it's been awesome. And he actually him and my mom flew up on Sunday morning to watch last week. And
oh, nice.
Wish I could have gotten the win with him there, but it was just awesome to have them there and kind of cheer me on.
That's amazing. Trent Daddy's been to your home country, Vienna, Austria. He went there for the Bachelor. Was it the Bachelor or the Bachelorette?
That was the Bachelor. Yeah.
What'd you think of the area?
I mean, I loved it. I was there for like 4 days. I didn't see much. I didn't do much sightseeing. I went to Starbucks every day. And outside of that, it's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful city. Like just even that little walk to the coffee shop, it was like, wow, it's just so much different than what I'm used to. Yeah, but unfortunately, I didn't get to a ton of sightseeing.
How often do you get back, Sepp?
I try to go every year. COVID kind of put a wrench in that. I hadn't been in the last 2 years, but going back in December for a couple weeks. And yeah, I love going back. It's an awesome country. Love visiting back home and just kind of feels like home.
Yeah.
How was the golf like? Yeah,
what's the golf like there in Austria? Like,
it's pretty good. They've got a bunch of good courses, mostly parkland, not a whole lot of link style. It's a lot courses that are kind of like US courses. But in the western part of the country, a lot of courses in the mountains, which is pretty sweet. A lot of undulations and crazy holes that you can get out there. But yeah, the golf's really good over there.
T-Daddy spent a day. Sorry, well, T-Daddy spent a day in Austria. How was the reverse of moving to the States after, growing up in Austria? It's so darn different over there.
Very different. But my mom's from South Georgia, so we had spent every summer in South Georgia growing up. So it wasn't a complete culture shock, but South Georgia is very different than Vienna.
The slang had to be quite different than what's going on in Austria.
Yeah, everything was different. Small town versus big city, US versus Austria. It was just completely different, but I love both. Both feel like home, and yeah, I wouldn't change a thing if I could.
Talk to me about Japan. What was it like being over there in Japan? I've heard, depending on kind of your cuisine preferences or whatnot, but I've talked with some guys that said Japan is awesome to go visit.
Yeah, it was awesome. I want to go back when it's not kind of locked down, which
True.
the country wasn't that locked down, but we were kind of quarantined in that hotel. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was awesome. The landscape's great. The food at the course was really good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going back and being able to kind of, because obviously I like food. I'm a big guy, so see some restaurants out there and eat some good Japanese food.
We were doing, I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones guy, but somebody submitted a question of if it was LIV versus PGA Tour trial by combat. So basically a fight to the death. Who would you pick from each tour? And we went with John Rahm for the PGA Tour, obviously. But not, looking at you and your stats, and you're like 6'3", 230 or something. You might be a pretty good candidate out there. There's not a ton of like golfers that are your size out there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably make a 5 to 10 man team, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
My fighting skills are very limited. So my only experience is with my brother, who's a lot smaller than me. So
yeah, but I feel like everybody's limited fighting experience out there. I mean, it's a golf golfers, right? Yeah, so I think you got to go with the stats at that point. I mean, you're kind of
I don't want to assume too much, but John Rahm, we've seen all of the rage. Now, Sepp might have like a little rage on the inside, but John Rahm wears that on his sleeve. We haven't seen that necessarily from Sepp, not yet.
Yeah, no, definitely don't have the outbursts like some of the guys. But if you poke me enough, I'll probably get something going.
How true is the Ox thing? They were really playing up the Ox nickname.
Yeah, no, that's my nickname from my Georgia days. My assistant coach, I don't know if y'all have ever seen the movie with John Candy. Gosh, what's his name? His name in the movie is Dewey Oxberger, and I reminded him of John Candy in that movie. Stripes is what it is.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it came from.
So what do we got this week? I know you said you haven't really seen the course yet. It's Tuesday, midday. What's your prep work? What's your week look like from here on out?
Yeah, going out this afternoon after lunch and gonna go play 9 holes in the Prem tomorrow for the back 9. So yeah, play 9 holes, practice a little bit after that. Get ready on Wednesday morning, kind of similar routine, and be done by Wednesday afternoon. But yeah, try to get used to the course, because the grass is going to be different, the course is going to be different. So just learning a new golf course is going to be most of it.
Yeah, you guys, what is it? Bermuda, bent, and then back to Bermuda. Is that kind of what you guys got?
Yeah. So it was, I guess, Georgia last week, fairways, Bermuda around the greens. It was all sorts of grasses last week, really. But yeah, just kind of a lot of chip and short game stuff around the greens, probably.
Is Trent swing coach going to be out there today and tomorrow?
Yeah, he's out here.
Yes. Tell him we said hello. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate it. It was unbelievably fun to watch on Sunday. We spoke about it a lot on yesterday's show, but that playoff was like why we're golf fans. You were a big part of that. Those tee shots on 18 both times, you just hit those draws over the left corner going after it. It was just an absolute blast to watch. So yeah, we enjoyed it. Obviously, hope you keep up the good play.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sepp.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Appreciate it, guys. See y'all.